Yes.
That's all. Great. And that is as well. Yes. Yes. Great. Okay, on these ones, can we
rotation.
Yeah, I'm in a regular restroom. I'll be able to. Should we strategically take a part of the room?
Did we meet yesterday?
No, this is the first cohort that I've been able to make. I had calls and other things like in the afternoon, so
I'm Jason.
better late than never. I'm Fred.
Nice to meet you. I'm with Cohort.
Oh, okay. So I'm the emergency manager for senior.
Oh, really?
Kind of rocks. And you can't get anything out of them, or in them sometimes. And so that was, you know.
Hey, I'm gonna see.
So
I put off some more cards.
I made a case for office. I can give you eyes of it, open that all up. With, you know,
Really good stuff here.
most of
Most
the
of disaster response work, as well as, you know, I'm thinking it would be really good to socialize some of this stuff that New York City or what yes.
Jason, I didn't know you were at this.
Yeah, I've been here for the past 3 days. You too?
Yes.
I'm so glad because actually that was the exact subject of the discussion that I was just having.
What's up?
How to socialize this with the state emergency management functions. And here you are.
Well, I am not, well, I'm Steve, who's part of the ESF, but I'm not.
Well, floodplain management is, you know, our positions have been all switched to emergency management positions instead of program specialists. So even in our regular programs, good to see you. So,
I wasn't at the evening session, so I was here.
thank God.
at least the state, look, good morning. So the state, and the people.
Oh,
I'm never feeling more than spent most of the 80s and 90s making flood maps.
oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody who survived the Republican at the local level with the community, expressing the advantages and benefits of flood maps like its citizens as my full perspective.
It sounds like they haven't changed much, still often contentious.
I've been covering for 24 years now. 1995 is when I was.
And you're now at the DHS Office of Information.
Science pickup.
Science. I don't know if you know Terry Winters from Preparedness. He moved over to that unit. And is it the Barrett? They have a Barrett office. Yeah.
Our National Security Technology Laboratories have a new seal is on New York Street in Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
They kind of focus on training support to first responders. And they do a lot of field testing on exercises with this report. So nice for the entire stakeholder effort. Are you okay to hear all of them?
Hi, how are you guys?
How are you all? So I think.
This person gone like that.
Kelly, do you know this from the
I mean, certainly I called the other, but not just over the market, so.
So you're also trying to get into your
Yes, so I am a statewide master education coordinator. So that role is expertise in energy infrastructure, and we're going to serve as regional community news directors. So I assist municipalities and financial projects, and then with that, developing mental health energy sort of is, for communities that don't see developing clean energy as fundamental to the government. When you put it in disaster context, engage in these programs, and access and consciousness. So it's how I just put that together and look at the local priorities.
Catherine and I are actually going to be having a discussion later on this afternoon with Heidi Walsh of the Higher Education Project and some people from New York City Grant.
Kathy Bucky Towers, you might know her, she's the assistant director of operations and associate director of New York City Grant.
So we really want to try to move rather quickly on taking some of what's coming out of this conference and operationalize it in terms of New York State, New Jersey, New York, so I don't know what your afternoon schedule is.
Sure.
Great.
I'd also be intrigued to discuss, because I know the offer of climate change is in here this week, but does this have a role in climate smart communities, new actions? Which would be creative.
This was not well known about.
Yeah, we were surprised by the. I thought about it. Two of my friends I wanted to stuff that tells you.
So it's the perhaps it's an opportunity, right? Just make sure the program pressures in the state for talking. Because I say with the agency.
This is Kevin, I suggested that we take a look at talking to you about the social license. Just really basic. And so that was sort of where I kind of wanted to go. Part of the conversation as well. What are the messages that we really wanted to try to drive? Start with Tom Fish, who's on the steering committee here, probably some modules created so that we can overview what this rise is trying to accomplish. And then we go into a discussion, maybe engaging like the chancellor's office and see what we do so that we can really especially as a high level. An opportunity to talk to program managers and council. So
I'm also really I'm assisting. Yeah. Right on the board.
Yes. So I will be happy to discuss that as well. I want to do this. Let's do it, because I did definitely see a webinar where we had all responsibility programs, RI, C grant, where also can incorporate the webinar course. And that's
And then Janet did kind of and
and Susie Lane. How can I engage her products more effectively with the public? Is there a place for their store, yes, I want to kind of do that engagement, but I just see what she does. That is the really interesting thing. I think she did great work. People see it, they'll connect with it. Thank you. Thanks for the next. Our station. sorry, I didn't get a chance to catch that either.
On a race,
Thank you so much.
on a race I had a fearless lake.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because the carts have fallen into the harvest repair. A lot of little counties will be actually having some November, March.
Just a bit water.
Operating to the livestock.
We'll give about 5 more minutes to see if anyone else comes in. It's a smaller group today, so we could, get a little bit closer if you feel like it. The better, if you feel comfortable like that, you could say like that.
Hi, this is the. Yeah, well, we've been, yeah, I'm good to see you.
Tell me your name. So, you have system services. So you're at Stony. You were there before. So what
I don't know what we worked on together. We've seen each other at a number of the round tables.
Yeah. So you didn't work with Shire? Yeah, okay.
No, we may have crossed paths with this year.
I think it must have been the kettle partners.
I think that was probably what it was. Yeah. When that, there was electricity services. Every federal agency had their plans or their roadmaps or whatever.
That wouldn't have been, I don't think that would have been connection. No, when I heard Stony Brook, I was familiar with someone else who we worked with closely. He was on a project, post-Sandy project.
Okay, yeah, I've been in Stony Brook.
Okay, you were at NOAA. And that's what, so when you were at NOAA, we worked together. First you maybe the New York Federal Partners got expanded to the Mid-Atlantic Federal Partners. Is that ring a bell? No, this is going to kill me.
Yeah.
Where was your office?
I was in building 3 with seasons in front of it. No fisheries science and technology, but it was like no programs on integrated programs of assessment.
It's going to kill me. I mean, what's your role?
Yeah.
At least.
Brothers are helping somebody.
Massachusetts, border agency. No, you didn't some of the same as
I'm sure we have.
because we recognize each other and know each other's names.
Well, you've been at, you were at the round table in Bronx.
No.
I saw you there.
We both envisioning each other at places we would know.
Yeah, well, obviously there was so much, well, I was having a conversation with Tom. And they were having Standish, we both know that we don't know.
We should get started. We have 17 hours. This conversation will possibly be really intense. So welcome, thank you for being here. My name is Oscar Ojelacana. I'm one of your facilitators. Mike Lichtenstein is on his way. He'll go soon. So this is our third and last day for now, right? And to just get started on what RISE is, what RISE needs to be. And so just to refresh, on yesterday I see some new faces. Some of them couldn't be here yesterday, so just to get the tone. Yesterday we talked about impacts that RISE could have. And so there were some really good comments on how RISE should be a third-party validator, should be, as Mark mentioned, a trusted voice, a repository of information, and how could we interact with, here, communities that are typically not heard by state and federal governments, and which is really interesting that we're here in this room together, because sometimes federal agencies don't even talk to themselves, and sometimes communities, geographical communities, don't talk to themselves. So what barriers do we need to take down? What bridges are need to be built to make this more effective? And so basically the purpose of today's cohort is to share what metrics, what indicators and criteria do we need to establish for our sectors and for RISE to make sure it's we as sectors and RISE as the knowledge network we're building is doing the correct job. So with that in mind, let's get started. What do you think the different sectors you represent need to do as process indicators that we're doing the correct job? Any thoughts? Steven, I think you should go first.
I just went.
Well, I have something I want to say. I don't know, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but with Julian Assange in the news and he being a conveyor of information that the government does not like, I would like to know what his files and the reason why he's in prison because of releasing all this information, what that type of information might have to say about climate change. And to me, I feel like it's a form of terror in some way. So I'm sure there's something in there. Just put it that way. Maybe we need to look at some of his files or whatever if we can get to it. So without going to prison.
Yeah, and that was something mentioned yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, looking at existing documents, existing frameworks, so we're not rediscovering the wheel.
I was just thinking that every agency has a response plan. We got to make sure that these concerns, if not the entity, is organically listed in them as a way forward.
Organically listed.
Yes, if you're in the disaster response community, if you're not in somebody's checklist or response plans, you don't exist, right?
Yep.
And I know this has been said, but I think I wanted to touch on it based on our last day of reflection.
I wonder if that could become a thing, because I think I'm a board member, and I'm a long-term recovery member, and they get cluttered in the level of conversation as well. Like you have some people who are first responders who really don't want to hear anything a lot of people have to say. And rightly so, they're busy and all that. And so the long-term recovery one, there is a little more element of that, but still a certain hesitation not to just do what they've been trained to do. And we, more you guys, are creating new paradigms, new ways and all that they might not be as compatible in the same. So I wonder if they should create an academic organizations active in disaster or another channel where you can serve as the pure voice you are. Because I think once you put them in a room, I mean, he's from that community. So once you put them in a room, the initial confrontation is going to be rough. We don't speak the same language, and so with FEMA being so willing, is FEMA here?
Yeah.
With FEMA being so willing to look at new avenues because they realize that they have to, allow for better communications between these resources that maybe weren't in the original plan. Maybe there's an academic organizations actually that has a cleaner way and it can serve a purpose that's not really, it could be service drift, sure, but also decision making or research clarification and such.
I fully agree with you, and I think it's another piece of what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about academia serving as sort of the clearinghouse for FOADs to get a voice that they might not otherwise get. So I think at the level of what you're talking about right now, of actual direct involvement of academic institutions, but as long as we also keep on the table their advocacy, so that those who, because I really liked that mention of local convergence hubs, So what is the local convergence hub that I think should have the primacy, but then the state, academic, and federal hubs that should all be aligned with whatever's coming out of that local hub is part of. Does that make sense to you?
That makes complete sense. I actually have, impromptu or like we put it together, convergence hub over there, and so I think it's a good avenue for it to work because in our case we didn't have a university, so we had to create it from a conservation trust and a church and this kind of thing. But I think places that have universities might be a better direct line, and sometimes you see universities trying to figure out what to do in the response, and these centers would be definitely very good.
Did we get that idea of the sort of tiered network of hubs in the notes?
Tiered, yeah, I thought we
yeah,
got
I mean, I think
tiered network of hubs. I thought we got that yesterday.
I mean, just from this conversation, I just wanted.
It was, yeah. I mean, we were articulating it a little bit different now than we did yesterday. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mark was mentioning another aspect of it, but I think it's very much connected. And the third thing that I would connect with it is, what are the federal agencies and every other level going to do in the intervening next few months to actualize that, so that when we come here next year, wherever here is, all of the partners are involved.
I think I'll just add to that, but before we start talking about indicators of impact, what are our internal indicators of progress? So that to me would look like, can we start a monthly or quarterly webinar series so people are remaining connected? Where are the committees located, and is their documentation and their meeting minutes, is that all visible on the website? But developing consistent messaging for people who want to continue to be involved. How are we continuing to reach those parties? Setting a quarterly meeting for people who maybe this tiered network you're speaking of, Jason, for them to continue to connect and drive forward these ideas, just to make sure it doesn't fall off until we have the next meeting.
And through existing meetings too, as we've sort of been discussing a little bit as far as association of state floodplain managers or other mechanisms, so that we may not have to exactly create that additional set of obligations for us, but feed it into existing networks.
I would love to hear the thoughts of anyone who hasn't spoken before.
Let me offer a couple things. So I'm with DHS Science Technology, in a couple of conversations, feel very challenging to sort out. So, what over the next few months, what are things that could be actual that we would support? Katie helped funded this at a request of the faculty here. And it was kind of a random engagement. This Dr. Griffin used to work with us, and us and Katie asked. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't even know would be here. So then, following up to this, what could our role be? It's kind of hard for me to get kind of my arms around specific things that we could fund and act on. The way we work, FEMA's kind of our client. With sort of FEMA customer engagement for us to understand how to engage. I'm a little concerned about, and again, as I think about how we could support sort of the scope. So, my high-level understanding is we're trying to focus on how universities can better support the pre and post environment, you know, really looking at the university communities.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot to that, how the communities, university communities themselves be resilient. And if you want to support, you know, communities, others afterwards, you know, how do universities plan on what they're expert in, what they can do. And the first responder piece, I'm wondering, you know, if you need to scope down. You know, first responders tend to, you know, they have their plans. They go, you know, to do something. They go, who they do? I'm going to go put out the fire. You know, I'm going to rescue you, whatever. The emergency manager, I think, might be more of the partner you ought to influence, but also thinking about the you know, thinking left of the event, the people in the community who are responsible for building code implementations, you know, the insurance companies, but also informing, how do we inform individuals? How do we get them to make better decisions about where they live, how they insure themselves, how they plan to protect their families in an event? You know, how do we do those types of things? So as I kind of sit here trying to think of how, you know, we can move forward with support, you know, those are some of the things I'm struggling with. You know, where's the scope I could kind of get my arms around with all the different organizations out there? What differentiates RISE, you know, to be legitimized as the authoritative place, you know, to work with? You know, the federal government, it's hard for us to go any one place. So it's just to complete our work and not be selective. But what makes, you know, RISE a unique organization or collective, you know, so I can easily, clearly justify, I need to go here. This is the people are do this. You know, I got FEMA tell me they need this, and have been the Red Cross. You know, how do I support that? So just some of the thoughts I'm looking through. What one?
Appreciate that, because you know you've been here for all three of these. And
well, I missed yesterday.
Oh,
which,
see, you could have said you were here yesterday, and I would have.
But actually, that's really interesting, because what you're mentioning about that specific focus, you know, that uniqueness was mentioned yesterday. You know, how does RISE define its niche? So we need to explore more on that.
Well, I think I'm here in part because, as it was described to us by the you know, the faculty that came to visit us, I think there's a well-described community here. You know, the conversations we're having, though, are very broad.
Yes.
I'd just like to build on what Dan said. I'm also with the Science and Technology Directorate, and I'm a program manager in the Office of University Programs, and specifically the program manager for the Coastal Resilience Center of Excellence, which is a consortia of, you know, like 20 partners all around the country, universities, private, public. It's university-led research and education. So just building on what Dan said, in my mind, honing in on some, you're talking about metrics, but honing in on some key desired objectives, desired outcomes, not just objectives. What do you want to actually happen on the ground as a result of all of these various efforts? In regard to broader coordination across the university and college community across the country, NSF, I don't know, is anyone here from NSF?
No.
Okay, they have an initiative called Converge. Lori Peak at the Natural Hazard Center is a point person for that, and they are putting in an infrastructure for coordinating disaster researchers across the country. So prior to, or as part of the process of identifying those desired outcomes, I think it would be really valuable if there was some support for actually doing a landscape survey of what other coordination efforts are out there. I saw some presentations here, at least one presentation here, on someone who was doing that locally on the ground in Puerto Rico. And several of the PIs from Puerto Rico, that is what they do. That's how they make things happen. They just build networks, and they do it with no resources.
Right.
You know, they got cut off at the knees with all the money that got taken away from the university.
Yeah, right.
Yet, I mean, that's true resilience. So I'll stop there.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
So are you talking about, so within the scope here, the coordination networks among universities? Not, because there's a lot of other stuff
Correct.
out there.
Correct.
So
And
you
then
would
figure
so
out
you-
how to plug that into coordination with
So metrics that you'd be
federal.
searching towards then would be, can we establish, you know, what the networks look like, how many universities belong to it, how do you grow it, and how many universities have a plan,
and then how do you plug that
and
into
you would fund all that, right?
federal?
Once you just identified the funding source, so.
Might be what a funded.
Well, I just want to say that we, over the last two days, this keeps coming up, the need to identify what's already happening, who's doing this work, what models exist. But what you put on the table that's new is a possibility going to NSF to actually help fund our ability to do that. Because that's what I've been worried about too, is like, it's fine to say we got to do this, who's going to do it? Where are the resources going to come from?
We need a national infrastructure
Yeah.
that extends to our territories, et cetera, all the communities, tribal, et cetera. We need a national infrastructure to coordinate disaster, natural hazards, research, development, academic assistance to communities across the country. But someone's got to build the infrastructure for that. I think NSF has already gotten started on it, and so
Coordinate, this is like another epiphany, so I want to make sure we get it. So Oscar's doing great here, national coordinate disaster R&D and academic engagement
in communities.
in communities.
Right, including our minority serving institutions, because they are almost
HBCUs
always,
and others. Yeah.
all of them, they are almost always have the very best relationships with the communities, and a lot of the work that has to get done is in the communities they're already in, already part of, already trusted partners in. And that's the avenue.
Here comes the trusted partner piece.
You
again.
have to
I
have
thought your
that
word map was excellent. by the way.
trust.
Yeah. All right. Over here, and then back over here.
My name is Fred Ryan. I'm an emergency manager with SUNY Rockport, and have been an emergency manager for the county, Monroe County in Western New York, for a number of years. And so this is my first session. I missed the other two for other reasons, but so someone over here mentioned emergency management being kind of like the conduit, and a national group. Understone is out there, University College Caucus from International Association of Emergency Managers, which has a couple, 300 emergency managers who are in higher ed settings, but you know, having been in both worlds of higher ed and government, those EMs in that I know touch and speak to their local EMs and their state EMs, and that could be, and obviously they have the ear of their colleges and universities.
Could you restate the group again, university?
It's the University College Caucus of the International Association of Emergency Managers. Okay. So it's a bunch of certified
There's
emergency
another group
managers.
that we find out about.
And their IAEM is having their conference this week in Savannah, and I chose to come to.
Right, I think that's where Wendy was, I think.
Yeah, so.
Okay, great.
That could be another group.
So, comment on the national infrastructure idea, and this relates to this whole thing that's come up several times, which is kind of an inventory of who's out there.
Yeah.
What's their composition, what's their scale, scope, reason for being, origination, authority, all those kinds of things, target audience, what do they do, you know, so that's kind of, we talked about a social network analysis, but this is prior to that. We'll keep doing kind of what I call the landscape characterization of the preparedness, response, or recovery landscape. And that then tells us, in terms of even a national, I thought of that connected to your comment on national infrastructure, some of that's probably already in place. It's just connecting the different pieces to make it a fully effective and fully present.
Inventory assessment, one of the things you said before the social network analysis that we talked about.
Yeah, I said, well, I think before you can do a social network analysis, you have to know, I mean, that's kind of the analytical piece to send the questions out to see who's connected to who. But you have to know first who are all those organizations that you're going to be engaging in an exercise like that. So I would call it a landscape characterization of the preparedness, response, and recovery kind of organizational landscape.
Okay. So can I just jump in? Because yesterday I talked about what we've done in New York City with regards to actually just that, where we've mapped capabilities to plans to corrective action. That process, I think, is a great fit
So let's take a look at what you
for that. And we can provide some documentation on how we did that.
Okay.
And it's ongoing. It's not to say that it's finished. But it's intense.
Okay.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
It's a hard lift, yeah.
Right. So when we're talking about the landscape characterization, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah.
And I think what we'd find is that, you know, with these different organizations that have just been mentioned, there's a lot of knowledge to be gained by finding out what all of those organizations do and how they're connected. That informs that whole characterization of what's out there.
Stephen, and then
I didn't mention there's also something in higher ed called the Disaster Resilient Universities Network, which I think is about 4,000 individuals around the country that sends out, you know, email blasts on different topics every single day. I get, you know,
Again, let's not recreate the wheel. This stuff's already out there. This is about finding that niche that we were talking about. Stephen and then Catherine.
I just wanted to plug Lori's work. She presented yesterday, Lori Peak, on Converge, and she's a total badass. the project is really cool too.
We're all badass.
Disaster resiliency. But that NSF is funding that is also for anything related to national infrastructure, universities for resilience. NSF is the first best funder, most likely.
Yeah.
There's other agencies that will have possible funding to be relevant,
Yeah. Well, we haven't talked about NSF yet, so I think that's great. Well, since you had the bully pulpit a little bit right now, I thought you almost solved this for us during your